Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Sandman Season 2, Episode 6. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, we're picking up with Joanna Constantine. I think it's interesting, that whole perspective of, basically, if you don't write your own story, people will write it for you. And so she's basically like, people would write stories about my sins, and in that time while she's in the middle of writing, she gets appearance from an old friend. It's like, yeah, we met 5 years ago. So you're like, oh, that's kind of neat knowing timeline wise in this time frame. It's like that episode, what was that, episode 6 of last season is like 5 years ago. And it's like, I need you to do a favor for me, and whatever it is within my power I can do for you, I'll do what it is. And we find out the thing he needed, and I thought was kind of an interesting thing, is his son was stolen off the island where the priests were looking after him and stuff like that. Basically where Dream had left him all those years ago, and all that time ago. But basically someone had stolen him and brought him to France. And it's interesting because like France is going through what it's going through right now with, what's his name, Citizen Robespierre. His name's like, was it Maximilian Robespierre, I believe. And he's trying to build a country upon reason, and he's like, oh, the gods are dead, myths are dead, and he's like, we're not going to believe in any of that malarkey, you know. And so Joanna came and stole Orpheus's head, pretending like, oh, he's an assaulter, and I want to show my mother the head. And you could tell she was kind of hesitant, like, oh, I'm sorry about doing this, and it spits in his face. But then one of the guys decides to rob him of his ear, like cut his ear, or like snatch like the earring from his ear. But once again, his body does not heal, because it's like, well, if it did, the rest of my body would be with me. Does make you wonder what did happen to the rest of his body. I'm assuming like those ladies like left it where it was, or maybe they ate it and devoured it. Like, who knows? They tossed his head, but we have no idea what they did the rest of the body then. But it's like, I thought it was interesting because Orpheus said that the earring will always find its way back. So it's interesting, like, he's like, oh, it won't bring them any fortune. I guess maybe because of, I guess, whatever enchantment is kind of on it will make it so it will always find its way back to him. But anyone else that has it, it's like, I guess it's like you're stealing kind of from an oracle. And so it kind of puts, I guess, some like bad energy out there in the universe, kind of righting the wrong of like you stealing from an oracle. I guess is kind of how the justification of that works. But it was interesting, like, despite his circumstances, he does, and even Joanna talks about this later on with Dream, about like there is some levity to Orpheus, that he will crack jokes usually at his own expense, but he comes off like nice and charming. Once again, you can't equate his circumstances with Nada's circumstances, because once again, Nada is 100% entitled to feel the way she did. I'm actually surprised, because I assume Orpheus would kind of harbor just as much issue with his father, but he did a lot of self-reflecting in his own regard, and it's just kind of like he created his own circumstances. His father, the difference is Dream expressly put Nada in this situation she was in, versus Dream just opted not to help you and do what you wanted him to, and your path is what led you to where you are. So you made your own bed, you had to lie in it. So that is the difference. But I still expected him to hold on to some resentment, and maybe on some level he did, or maybe that was always drowned out by his own regret and sadness. Whatever the case may be, like, him having such levity about it and kind of being a little flirtatious with Joanna was really interesting. But it was only a matter of time before, like, higher-ups found out about the head being missing, and she was sadly spotted with the head, so it's kind of like, eventually word's going to get back. So Robespierre shows up being like, I know you took the head, so either you hand it over and we can dispose of it, or we will like lop off your head to you, so you have until tomorrow. And so obviously she doesn't know what to do, but Dreams, I mean, I do love the little back and forth where it's like, when Orpheus is like, yo, who asked you to do that? Was it a priest? He's like, was it my father? And she's like, I'm not at liberty to say. He's like, is he okay? Did he look well? It's like, that's what I mean. Like, even despite everything, he's still concerned about his dad. And even funny enough, like father, like son Orpheus, Dream is like, so Orpheus, how was it? Did he seem okay? It's like, funny how he literally asked the same question about you. He's like, you didn't answer it. It's like, no, I chose not to answer. Don't worry, I didn't break our deal. But it's like, maybe you should go and see your son. Obviously, it's like, he's in good spirits. He even offered to sing for me. It's like, he did? It's like, yeah, that's how you find your way out of this situation. And so when I love Joanna trying to tell Robespierre like, hey, you might want to like, I'm giving you a final chance. We could just walk away. You could let me walk out of here, and he wouldn't listen. And so she's like, all right. She sets Orpheus up to sing, and I love it. It's like he sings a song of freedom, and it's like so powerful that the other piled of severed heads start singing too, and Robespierre as well as the others are like enraptured. So it gave Joanna and him an opportunity to leave, but she's like, I think the song was heard throughout France because not soon after he was brought to the guillotine, and basically his reign of terror came to an end. So it is ironic that if he had listened to Joanna, like, who knows what would have happened. But obviously the course of history would be very different. But just the fact is that you met your end because you didn't take the out that Joanna gave you. So it's interesting. She takes him back to the island, and she's kind of like, is it really okay for me to just leave you here? He's like, no, it's fine. Like, the priests, they'll find me just like they did previously all those years ago. And it's like, oh yeah, when you see my father again, ask, tell him that I miss him, and it's like, do you think he'll ever stop by to see me? She's like, I couldn't really answer that. And I thought it was interesting because it's like, oh, like, are you really going to be okay? But he's like, yeah, my mom stops by every once in a while. So, plus I have the company of the priest who take care of me. So it's kind of, I'm not completely alone, but obviously would still love to see his father because he hasn't seen his father since they parted ways. And it's like, obviously proof enough is my father still cares about me, because if he didn't, he wouldn't have sent you to come and rescue me. So I think for him, he thought his father hated him, but it's like, knowing my father, we haven't talked and we haven't seen each other in that time frame. For him to send someone like that must mean he does care. And they talk about it later on too. It's like he did like enter the dreams of the priest and kind of nudged him towards where he was. So like, I mean, if he didn't care, he wouldn't have gone through that much trouble. It's like, you are still his son regardless. So I just thought that was kind of beautiful. And even Joanna being like, oh, should I stop by every once in a while, during my travels? And he's like, it's probably not a good idea. I think for him, it's a situation of like, you don't want to be stuck to someone like me. I mean, I think there's twofold. One, you should live your life. And me, I'm always going to be here. Death will never come for me, but it will for you. And you need to live your life, not wasting it on like a head like me, kind of enjoy your life. But also it's like the double side of it, like I would lose you if we got too close. It's interesting too, because like the thing that she got from Dream was she wanted to kind of spend more time with him, and as we can see, she was buried on the island that he was kept at. You're like, oh wow, that's beautiful. So I wonder, did she make sure to see him from time to time, or is it more of a situation of like, no, I don't know. I don't know if it's a thing of she still like saw him from time to time, or is it more of a situation of, no, let me be buried there so that I can be with him? Because it was like, wasn't it like 1790 something? Because she died like, what, 50 some years later. Probably like maybe 55 years, because it was like 1850 when she died or something, I believe. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how to interpret that. I'm probably like wasn't really understanding the context of whether that's her implying like, oh, let me stop by every once in a while, or is it just, hey, let me be buried near him? And it could be a combination of the two. But present day, Dream goes and speaks with his son, which even after all these years, it's like Orpheus is so happy to see his father. He's like, Dad. And it's like, yeah, I came here. He's like, oh, but if you're here, that must mean a lot has happened. He's like, yes, where do I even start? He's like, well, from the beginning, it's like, I don't have anywhere to go, do you? And I'm like, it's sweet. So Dream probably explained everything to him. And the irony behind it all is, it's like, where is their brother? It's like, he's not too far away. In fact, he's on an island really close by. And it's like, really? Our brother would hide out here? It's like, yes. Because that's the most obvious place to hide. Hide in the one place Dream would never dare come look for you for. Because it would mean having to confront his son. And I guess on some level, considering like he thought, and like so many of their siblings think, Dream is stuck in his ways and no one expects him to change. But he has begun to change. So the siblings, of Delirium, Dream are finally reunited with their dear lost brother, Destruction. And it's like, oh, obviously you seem a little different. And even Dream downplays how much he changed. He's like, it's doubtful how much I've changed, but you have changed, Once again, living as long as you have and changing at all is a miracle in its own right. But I love the conversation with Delirium where, they sat down to eat and Delirium's like, okay, so like, you never said anything. Or she's like, maybe you did and I just didn't understand it, or maybe I wasn't listening, but I'm listening now. And it's like, I missed you a lot, and so I wanted to find you. Dream's not the one that brought me here. In fact, I'm the one that brought him here. He's the only one of our siblings that wanted to take this journey. So I was hoping, to kind of talk to you and obviously try to convince you to come back home, because she's like, obviously it's like, you could stay away, but she's like, but that way, like, the easiest way not to miss you anymore is just for you not to go away and for me to be around you. So, because they also get into the discussion about his mechanisms. It was, in fact, his backup plans, his contingencies that led to all the deaths in episode 4. Because those were all part of, like, his warning system. And it is kind of like, and obviously that pisses Dream off, because he's like, you killed so many people. It's like, well, Ishtar, it's like, oh, like, you never really cared about Ishtar, but he's like, it's about the lives, the innocent lives. And it's so interesting because, like, even destruction is like that in itself is a wonderment in itself, brother. Like, you hundreds of years ago would have just been like, well, it was their time, whatever. But the fact is, you're getting this upset that it bothers you so much that these mortals met their end this way, that you feel like there's such an injustice to it. Shows how much you've grown and changed. And he's kind of happy and proud of that, about his brother. But he also, Dream calls him out because it's like, you left your realm, and kind of calls him out for doing what he did. And it's like, you abandoned your responsibility, you left us. And you can tell it was bothering Destruction, but he pets Barnabas to kind of calm himself down. And he kind of, talks about the fact is that even before the warning system went off, he knew, he had a feeling like it'd be only a matter of time, maybe before his siblings found him. And he was already kind of feeling like, I should probably leave this place. Because, what he loved about this place is everything was unchanging. But it's like, if he went back, things would change. He'd basically be leading the people he's in charge of to their destruction, to their deaths. And he would play his role in it. And he doesn't want to do that anymore. I don't want to have to carry that responsibility because it's not mine. But Dream's kind of like, if it's not yours, then who is? It has to be yours. That is your duty as one of the endless. You owe it to them to play your role and to simply walk away. And, in Dream's mind is cowardice and super messed up and, weak-willed of you to kind of abandon your duty, whereas each and every one of us all feels our duty regardless of it. Like, why should you be the exception that kind of gets to abandon your duty? But once again, he is, amongst his siblings, Dream is the most duty-bound and responsible, so like that burden of duty weighs the heaviest on him amongst his siblings. Like I said, probably next to him would be Death and Destiny, but I think the others take their responsibilities just as much, but he carries his like a cross, like a cross to bear. But also, like, despite everything, he couldn't completely let everything go, because even Dream's like, you kept your gallery. He's like, yeah, I probably should have gotten rid of it a long time ago, but I kept it, whether it was just out of sentimentality of, like, regardless of keeping his distance from his family, he still loves his family, and he still did miss them. And so he ends up taking his sword with him, and because it's like, right, last thing he needs is probably that to fall into someone else's hands, kind of like obviously Dream and his items sadly fell into other people's hands, in his 100 years of capture. I'm sure he probably heard through the grapevine like what happened to his brother. He probably knew, but also I'm sure that probably plays a role too. Like, oh, you never decided to come out of your like reclusion to help me out of my predicament. I mean, once again, none of his other siblings too. I forgot what the answer was, but obviously that was a conversation back in season 1 as well about the lack of help from his siblings. But either way, there was a continued conversation between him and Destruction and Dream about like how he found him, because like, wait, you spoke to your son? It's like, yeah, he pointed me in, like, why was it? He's like, because we needed an oracle to find you. So he's like, wait, so I'm the reason why you talked to your son? It's like, well, you're not all of the reason. You played a part in it, because for Dream, it's like, it's something I've been running away from and avoiding for so long. You just brought about the opportunity to do something that needed to be done. It's just kind of like the Nada thing. There's a lot of stuff he has to make right. And the situation with his son was something he needed to make right. And the destruction situation just gave him the perfect excuse, essentially. But also, it's like, Destruction knows what that means when it's like, okay, you offered your son a boon. It's like, what's the one thing your son wants? And it's like, I'm sorry I put you in a position, but it's like, Dream knew what this meant when he set forth on this path. I mean, I didn't talk about it, but I thought it was so heartbreaking when like Delirium tried to stop him. Like, I come up with all these different flavors of ice cream, but she's like, I was wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about this. We can just go back, because she doesn't want him to have to, kill her nephew or kill it. Like, she knows what it means for Dream to spill their blood. Like, he would dread having to kill one of them or spill their blood, let alone having to like spill the blood of your own child. That's an extra layer of just sadness to that. So she was trying to convince him, like, no, we don't have to do this. But it's like, no, this is what we have to do. This is what has to be done, not just so they can find their brother, but also for Dream. It's like, I owe my son, for all these centuries later, I owe him for this. This is what I owe him. So, but Destruction did leave him some advice, because he's like, essentially, basically everything that is worth doing in life, you do for love. Because he's talking about, like, you might think I'm weak and you might not like why I did what I did, and you might feel like I abandoned you, but he's like, I did it out of love. And you might not see it that way. You might not believe me in that regard. You might call me weak for it. And maybe I am weak, and maybe I am selfish. But at the end of the day, I did do what I did out of love for his family and for those. Because he's like, right, like, the cycle continues even without him playing there at the helm of it. Destruction still happening. He's just not, at the forefront of it, being the arbiter of it and playing his role in it. Like, that role is someone else. He gets to not be this destructive nature that he was designed to be. He ends up leaving Barnabas with Delirium, because this way she doesn't have to be alone. Because it's like, right, you're not alone. Like, look, you came here with Dream, and she's like, yeah, but Dream's going to be super busy. He's not going to have time. And so Barnabas, it's like, left. And I love that he's like, right, let me guess, you're gonna miss the paintings and the guitar and the poetry. He's like, oh yeah, like, trying to make me feel better. It's like, his longtime companion, them kind of saying their goodbyes. Because I guess on some level, maybe Barnabas never thought this day would come, because it's like, oh, you leaving behind. He's like, the places I'm going, you aren't fit for you to like survive. And he doesn't know where he's going to go. But I love the poeticness of, he loves the stars, because there is nothing that lasts forever. But he's like, the stars, they give the illusion that, they get to pretend that they get to last forever. Mortals come and fade. Gods come and go. Like, there is nothing in this that lasts forever. Everything changes. Everything disappears eventually. But just for, the night sky gives it this illusion of it goes on forever. And so he's going to go out, and whatever's left of his life, he's going to live it and enjoy it, And it's interesting because initially Dream kind of believes like, oh, this wasn't worthwhile, because they set out on this quest with a purpose to bring his brother back, but it's like it didn't work out. But for Delirium, it's like, no, like, it wasn't worth it. It wasn't not worth it. It was worth it. They got to see their brother, and it's like, even if he's not coming back with us, at least we have an answer. We know now why he left, and we have the definitive answer. There's no more wondering if he'll ever come back. He never plans on coming back. So at least we have some solace in having that answer. Plus, I got a doggy out of it, and you got some advice. So it was worth it, Once again, it isn't always about the destination. It is it's about the journey. And this was a whirlwind journey, because they both grew so much from this, Because Delirium doesn't feel as alone anymore, and she got a dog out of it. But also, it brought her closer to one of her siblings, and it allowed her to kind of, I think, feel okay. Because, one of the things she had said was, she was, the whole concern of, I thought, things got messed up because Destruction left, but it's like, what if things were already messed up, and they were just like, I was just making it seem like, because I missed Destruction so much that he would be the end all be all, that him being back would fix everything. And it's like, it wouldn't, because he's not coming back. So Dream goes and visits his son, and is like, oh, how was my uncle? And he's like, honestly, kind of the same is all he can really take away, because he's like, I don't really know how to answer that. But it's like, he left, and it's like, did you think he would come back? And it's like, Dream hoped that he would, but he's like, I knew on some level that our brother was never going to come back. That was a reality that he had to face. But even Orpheus is like, but still, like, you knew, like, if you came to me, that I would ask you for the one thing. And he's like, I understand. And he was willing to do that because it helped them in the long run to find their brother, and it gave him closure, gave their sister closure. It's going to give the rest of their family closure, but it also was... I mean, it's still sad that at the end of the day, there were so many lives lost, but it was all part of some grand plan, I think. In the regards that it was all necessary, like I said, part of this journey, just to show how much Dream has grown, that the stuff that happened, the loss of lives did affect him. It wasn't a thing of like it didn't matter. It still does suck that, like, you know, Destruction had to sacrifice the people he loved to keep himself separated from everything because he didn't want to get dragged back by his siblings. He doesn't want to resume his duty as Destruction. It's still all kinds of effed up, but it is still something that they don't have to fully agree with, but at least his siblings have a better understanding of why, because they never got the why. Even last episode, Dream was like, I think my brother tried to tell me and I wasn't willing to listen back then. I didn't hear him. Now I do. I understand things better. I think especially with all he's been through, all that he's grown, and especially when you think about everything with Orpheus too, I think plays a role in it. Because the irony is, for Orpheus, it's like, when the time came, I've been praying for death for so many years, and he's like, I knew it would never come for me, but he's like, when it did, what I was hoping for, I never in my life thought like it would come in the form of you, that you would be the one to make me meet my end. And he's like apologetic because he's like, I'm so sorry for what I did, but he's like, no, like, Orpheus, I'm the one that's sorry. I think it might have been part of their first conversation, but he does apologize to his son. He's become a lot better, you know, offering up apologies, because he would never admit himself to be wrong. But he is apologizing a lot more, because even Delirium said in episode 4, like, wait, you apologize? You never apologize. You'll kind of just walk the path of, you know, I was right and you're wrong. Like, you stay with that, but he continues to be like, no, he apologizes. And I thought it was beautiful, where it's like, I should have listened to you. And even Dream's like, maybe, like, but at the end of the day, this is the path we walk down. It's like, there's nothing we can do to change what was. And once again, maybe everything happened for a reason. It does happen for a reason. But it was also the heartbreaking reason why Dream did what he did, and it makes a lot of sense. And it goes back to the original thing of, he did not want to sacrifice his son, even if it was to save his son's wife and his happiness, but it's still the thing of, the reason why I said what I said back then, that I would never see you again, that, you know, and farewell, it's like, because I could not bring myself to kill you, because I did not know if I'd be able to survive in a world where you were no longer there. That was his motivation. That's what stopped him. It's like, you are my son regardless. I am your father, and nothing was going to ever change that. And I didn't know how to, I could not handle living in a world where you weren't there. And it's like, yeah, it was out of selfishness, even though Dream can make it seem like he's above that. They're like, no, I don't let something like that kind of control me. But it's like, you are motivated and controlled by that selfishness of, you know, wanting what you desire, no matter what it might cost others, you know. Living your son in that state was just purely for the fact you wanted him around. You wanted to know, even if we don't see each other, I can at least know my son's out there in the world and he's okay. He's immortal. Like, nothing, death won't find its way to him. But it ultimately does, and Dream kills him and goes back home to the dreaming. And, you know, his sister does thank him, because she's like, I don't think I would have been able to do this without you, Dream. And it's like, honestly, Dream wouldn't have been able to do this without her. It's like, this whole situation, like I said, it domino affected to him facing something he's been putting off for so long, something he's ignored and refused to pay attention to for so long. This has been that season for Dream in totality. And he goes back to Lucien, and it's like, right, tell those who looked after my son to basically bury him, obviously gently, but also an unmarked grave, because doesn't want anyone to ever disturb Orpheus's grave. I'd like to believe they're probably going to bury him somewhere near Joanna. I'd like to believe that they would. And even if it's not directly near her, if he stays buried there somewhere, they're still near each other. So I think that's kind of a nice touch. But Dream's like, yeah, like, whatever work is necessary, it can be put off until tomorrow. Because Lucien understands, like, the moment he was like, tell the people who are charged with looking after my son that they are free of their duties. They can stay there or go whatever, like, wherever they desire. Like, she knew what that meant. and for him to go and try and wash his hands afterwards, and it's just heartbreaking. He can't get the blood off his hands, and it's just like the first time we've really seen Dream so vulnerable and breaking down like that. I mean, it's just like you freed your son from like this immortal prison, but it's still like it does not make it easier that you had to be the one to do it. Not only that, you have to carry the weight knowing that you're the one that killed your son, took his life, but also the fact is that he's just in general not with you anymore. I mean, also, just like the little touch, obviously you hear it, but you can also see the shadows of it. Like, after he killed his son and left out the room, you can see Death's wings, like, flapping, as she came to, claim her nephew. But you can at least hope and pray that maybe, just maybe, that also means him and his love are reunited again after all this time. And it's like, that there is some silver lining is all you can really hope for when it comes to death, that being reunited with those you've lost and loved. And then we cut to the Sisters of Fate as they're, doing their thing, threading the threads and yarns of fate. But then they read the prophecy, and it's the same one they told Destiny that he told his siblings back in episode 1 about the king who abandons his kingdom and life and death will clash. And obviously this is a sign that, like, because they got the same prophecy again, I guess, like, it ties into, like, Dream doing what he did. And so it's like one of the sisters like, oh, we need to cut it, but like the other was like, well, I wanted to go a little bit longer. And even the other was like, come on, he only killed his son because his son begged him to. It's like, well, at the end of the day, he still spilled royal flesh, so it has to be cut. And so they cut what appears to be Dream's string of fate. So it's kind of like, basically everything must come to an end. Even the endless have their end. And so it's kind of implying, like, sooner or later, Dream is going to meet his end. And I kind of went into this season knowing that because I was listening to someone who's a little more familiar. This is around the time they announced that this second season was going to be the final season. This person's a little more familiar with the comics, so they were like, basically, without going into it, they were like, Dream's story has an ending, but that's not where the comic ends. In fact, the comic goes beyond Dream's ending. So context closed, I was like, oh, so Dream dies in the story, but the story does continue. There are more stories post his death, which I can only assume, like, the last shot of Dream's story is going to be his sister Death coming to be by his side during that, which is kind of, once again, it's kind of nice to be, ushered off by family in that regard. So once again, that was just me kind of guessing that that's how that's going to play out, and this just adds validity to that. How he's going to meet his end, under what circumstances, I have no idea. We'll ultimately have to wait to see when Sandman returns for the last 5 episodes, and was it July 24th? And then, like, a week later on July 31st, there's going to be a bonus episode revolving around Death. So I would assume that episode would probably be, like, maybe in the aftermath of whatever Dream's conclusion may be. Or maybe it takes place some point in time frame over the course of that story. Like, maybe it isn't post the ending of the show, but more like somewhere along that time. I don't know. It's just something interesting to think about. But yeah, I'll be excited to see where the next episodes end up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.